The movie begins in a dark and creepy forest, where tall trees hide it most as sunlight creates a feeling of gloom and mystery. Suddenly, a hand reached out and grabbed the trunk of the owl. A tired teenager, wearing a yellow hoodie. He was running for his life through the forest. After running for a while, he fell to the ground, panting and clinging to the mud. Next, the scene changes to a bright red bus, rolling on the road, deserted, surrounded by tall trees of the forest. Inside the bus, a teenager named Nolan is wearing a gray hoodie, wear headphones, and look out the window. Nearby, a girl is busy drawing in her sketchbook. Meanwhile, the bus driver talks about an upcoming lunar eclipse. Extremely interesting. He turned down the radio volume and asked the teenagers to see. Does the eye have a plan to see this phenomenon? A boy sat nearby said he had seen a video about it on YouTube. The friend sitting next to her said she would watch it with her father. The two started arguing for a while, then fell silent. At the back of the bus, a boy wearing a nose ring sits alone. He crushed one empty soda can and threw it, hitting Nolan in the head. Nolan is back and saw Reggie giving him a sign of loss. He replied to Reggie, then turned back, caught the smile of my best friend. Then, when the situation calms down, the bus driver asked Best if he was going to see the lunar eclipse. Best is uncertain and Kay teases both Nolan and Best, making Quinny upset and moved to another chair. The radio continued talking about the eclipse, said it would be long and very interesting. Kay stood up and read a riddle from his phone, but quickly reset and guessed correctly, making K7 Reddy laughed at CA for being fooled. Then Reset shares a quiz, which he said they wouldn't be able to find online. The teenagers listen attentively, but no AI can solve it. Puzzles involving 7 letters and is a very necessary virtue. However, the children did not know what the answer was. Kasheo Winnie for not guessing correctly and joking about the index. Her IQ. Logic looks through the rearview mirror and giggled at the confused expressions of the children. The bus turned onto a dark and narrow road, then suddenly stopped because a fallen tree blocked it. Logic forces you to step back and choose a smaller hidden away. They continued moving on an empty road, full of fog, causing teenagers to start feeling scared because it is difficult to see clearly. The bus stopped again. When they came across a deer lying in the middle of the road, Logic stepped get out of the car to move the deer and told the children to stay in the car. Everyone was going to help him, but then decided not to. Yodep dragged the deer into the forest but stopped. It feels like something is strange. In the car, the teenagers started joking around. CA intended to tell a funny story, was interrupted when Yodep came back with a gun, pointed at my head. The children panicked when they saw a bearded man hurriedly entered the car. Right after, Yodep coldly greeted them and pointed the gun at Yodep. The man pushed the slippers and asked him to drive, without saying another word. When the car door is closed, Case suddenly remembered the lunch with his father not long ago. During that meal, Kay told Chris a heroic story about how he saved a girl from a group of bullies, and Chris pretended to believe him. He also showed me an article about a murderer. A series of dangers have just from prison. A notorious murderer nicknamed the Tongue Eater specializes in targeting teenagers. His father joked that he couldn't handle this murderer, just like how he dealt with bullies at school. Back to reality, Kay realized that the gunman was the murderer. Escape that prison as day gradually turns to evening. The bus continued to roll. Bandit named Pedro ordered everyone to throw their phones out the window, so no AI can call for help. Everyone does Theo except Raji, who still looked at Pedro with challenging eyes. Logic tries to convince Raji to obey, but Pedro only laughed. He came closer to Raji. He put a gun to his head and forced him to put down his phone. He complains about teenagers behave like zombies and told them to sit still and enjoy the journey. The car entered a dark tunnel. But suddenly the engine died. Logic silently cursed and Pedro shouted what was wrong. Joseph tried to explain, but Pedro put a gun to his head, forced him to fix the car immediately. Juice turned the key, but the engine did not start. Peru is angry. Winnie stood up and put a gun to her head threateningly. Juice, if you can't start the car. Logic begged Pedro, cool it, but Pedro insisted that he get off the bus. Treat immediately. He warned Joseph and the children not to play tricks, then pulled Queenie out of the car. Juice opened a storage compartment under the car, while Pedro and Queenie keep a close eye on Sal. Inside the car, the teenagers panicked. Kay worried that Pedro might kill them, and proposed to find a way to disarm him to be able to survive. However, Ka and Raji realized that try to confront Pedro right now would be too dangerous. Logic struggles to understand the engine cannot start. Suddenly the lights went out and the tunnel became dark. The only light comes from inside the bus, filled everyone with fear. A strange sound echoed from the darkness. Juice turned on the flashlight forward, but saw nothing. Peruvian man holding gun asked Juice to investigate the sound. Feeling nervous, logically headed into the dark with the flashlight. Pedro pushed Queenie back into the car, and the teenagers observed Zos through the windshield. Suddenly, a large shadow appeared, covered his head, and grabbed Zodep. He shouted, causing the teenagers to panic. Pedro shouted angrily. They were silent, and then discovered the bus key was missing. He cursed it and ordered Kay, get the key back from Joseph, but I'm not so scared that I can't move. Seeing that, Nolan offered to go instead. At the same time, Best also ran out to the car. Pedro warned Nolan not to come closer, while Best trembled. Put your hand in your pocket to get the key. See the lifeless face of Logic. She started crying, but was quickly distracted by another sound. Peru grabbed the key and ordered let Raji start the bus. Raji hesitated, and Peru threatened to shoot him if he did not obey orders. Frustrated, Raji took the key and tried to start the car, but still not successful. Pedro threatens to start with Queenie if Ricky don't make the car run. Ricky stood up and asked Pedro to stop calling Queenie harsh names. This caught Pedro off guard, long enough for Nolan to push him. Raji grabs the gun, but Pedro snatched it back and started shouting at the creature outside here. A loud bang from outside startled everyone. The bus shook, and the children saw the creature through the window. It has a peculiar shape, completely different from anything they had ever seen. They shouted and hid between the rows of seats, while the creature roared, growling, trying to invade. Reggie returned to his usual seat at the back of the bus, while the radio crackled. He started to feel dizzy and pressed his face against the back window before losing consciousness. Suddenly, the familiar sound of the creature rang out when it comes back, and the bus shook violently. When the creature tried to open the door, Best quickly grabbed the flashlight and held it up. Keep creatures away long enough for everyone to escape through another door. They found a bunker, and after exploring for a while, they discovered a room. There is a diagram of a military fortress. Nolan and Best decide to look for the control tower to turn on the light, and Nolan and Best became closer through this moment. While searching, Nolan and Best come across a large flashlight. Nolan for that AI had tried to destroy the creature before. They also found a skeleton in a cave. Shows that the previous plan had 7 failures. Meanwhile, Reggie and Queenie are accidentally separated from the group. Reggie finds Queenie being attacked by the creature. Final, Newland and Best also find out the main power switch. When they try to turn it on, Ka helps Queenie escape. Out of danger, they realize that Vachi is in danger and quickly turned back to help him. Roggy was struggling under the creature thing that was dripping blood on him. His friends rushed to the rescue, and Roggy groaned, unable to resist any longer. At that time, Best and Nolan turned over a big project. Light filled the tunnel, causing the creature to roar and quickly fly away from Gigi, disappear into the darkness. Kay breathed a sigh of relief. Glad they fixed the generator promptly. In the control room, Nolan and Best discovered a small staircase leads down to a cave filled with old newspapers and pictures of the creature that killed Yogdep. Books and diaries show that AI was haunted by this creature. Nolan also found a Polaroid photo of a little girl and started piecing together the story. They hurried back to their friends, but stopped in the hallway when they saw a figure walking towards them. Rare and others appeared from the end of the hallway, and Nolan and Best breathed a sigh of relief when they saw them. However, they quickly realized Queenie and rushed to help her. Ka tries to explain what happened, but no one understands you. Nolan helps him calm down while Best check Queenie's wound, a deep and bloody cut. The group arrives at the tower and show everyone what's left of a man named Juliet Noland, explaining that Julius has become obsessed with the creature called a Wanderer in the night after it kidnapped his sister. Nolan reads Julius's diary, and the story is recreated through a flashback. Young Julius wears a yellow jacket. Hanging out in bed with my sister, pretend they are on an adventure. Julius did not recognize Ra when his sister entered a dark tunnel, where she saw something and froze. Julius heard the scream of terror and panicked, ran away and collapsed crying. After that, Juliet becomes an old man holding his sister's book, haunted by the memory of that day. He entered the tunnel, determined to find the creatures surrounding him, buy candles, and work non-stop to build machines to fight creatures. We see him sharpening knives, assembling and testing weapons, while always looking at my sister's photo. Currently, the group of friends talk about Julius's desperate attempt to destroy creatures. They believe it acts as a parasite will continue to hunt Queenie. They learned that Julius had met his death when his radio attracted the creature. Though Queenie is worried, the group decided to stay and finish what Julius started. She reluctantly agreed, and the group hugged each other before starting to prepare. They recheck old equipment, planning and cooperation to prepare the lighting machine. The group sets a trap to lure the Wanderer in the night with Queenie's bloody clothes. The initial plan went well, but Best is having difficulty with his work. Rashi's hide is not working. Nolan was almost caught, but Best promptly distracts the creature. It's almost detectable. She and Queenie were hiding behind the door as a distant sound made it turn away. They lure the creature into a room. There are clothes stained with Queenie's blood on light source. The creature grabbed the clothes, and they quickly turned on the lights, make it blinding. Kay bravely rushed to stab the creature, create a chance for the girls to escape. Queenie and Best escaped the tunnel safely, and breathed a sigh of relief. They turned to see the screaming creature, but stuck in the darkness of the tunnel. The young man came with the torch, swallow the creature, and burn it in fire. They stood and watched the creature scream in pain. Nolan ends the story, reveal that the answer to the riddle of logic is courage. He explained courage is a valuable lesson which they drew out of this terrible adventure, and whether others understand or not, that lesson will forever be with them. The story ends with a scene of police officers' tunnel investigation. A police officer checks the safe room with a flashlight. Suddenly, a loud scream rang out, causing him to stiffen, and the flashlight turns off when he faces something scary. Another scream echoed through the tunnel, revealing a mysterious and scary ending.